The old woman forced her daughter to sleep with a man just to get some food in return, because in this post-apocalyptic world, food had become the most valuable commodity. After filling her belly, the old woman got greedy and decided she wanted to take over the farm for herself. The next morning, while the girl went down to the river to wash up, the old woman pretended to help the man with chores, sneaking up behind him with a shovel raised to crush his skull. But right then, the man spotted unfamiliar footprints on the ground and realized the girl might be in danger, so he took off running toward the river. Just as he feared, the girl had barely finished washing when a stranger grabbed her. By the time the man reached the riverbank, all he could find was one of her shoes. Noticing broken branches and trampled plants, he followed the trail to a meadow where he figured the attacker must be hiding nearby. So he quickly ducked down and reached for the bullets in his pocket to prepare for a fight, only to discover they were gone. The attacker was lurking less than 30 feet in front of him. The man went down hard, and the attacker dragged the girl over to finish him off with a knife. But suddenly the man's eyes snapped open and he yanked the blade from his own leg, driving it straight into the attacker's throat. He'd been playing dead, using himself as bait to lure the enemy close enough to strike. Though he managed to save the girl, he'd taken a bullet in the process, and the mother and daughter hauled him back to the cabin where the girl heated a knife over the stove to dig out the bullet. But just as she was about to stitch him up with needle and thread, the old woman grabbed a red-hot poker and pressed it against his wound instead. Once they'd patched him up, the man turned his gun on them, knowing they must have stolen those missing bullets, and their betrayal cut him deep. Still, he didn't hurt them, just locked the mother and daughter in a room. The next day, the wound got infected, and the man burned with fever. And seeing him laid up in bed, the old woman had her daughter swipe his pistol, figuring they had nothing to fear from him now and could just wait for him to die and claim the farm. But the girl had other ideas. She figured the man could help them survive. Plus, he'd saved her life, so they shouldn't just let him die, and her arguments won over the old woman. So they went back and rubbed their hands all over his body to warm him up. And by the next day, the man came around. And once he learned the mother and daughter had saved him, he let bygones be bygones. But they had a problem. The man's little farm couldn't feed 3 mouths, so they'd need to scavenge for food. That night, the man spotted lights in the woods and realized intruders had found them. So he rushed inside and barred the door, figuring from the sounds that there were maybe 6 of them, but with only 3 bullets, they didn't stand a chance. Though luckily the intruders didn't break in and eventually moved on. The next day, they found their vegetable garden picked clean, making their situation even more desperate. Then the girl realized her period was late and figured she might be pregnant. And back in the cabin, the old woman told her they were almost out of food and would have to kill the man to survive, telling her to gather poisonous mushrooms to make into soup for him. And by now, the man trusted them completely and wouldn't suspect a thing. After talking it over, the girl did as her mother said and picked toxic mushrooms from the woods, cooking them into soup for dinner, which the man drank without question. The next morning, the old woman packed up all the food to leave. But when she went to wake her daughter to come along, and seeing her daughter's lack of response, the old woman instantly knew something was wrong. And moments later, she started throwing up. Her daughter had put the poisonous mushrooms in her bowl instead, maybe because she'd fallen for the man, or maybe because she didn't want her child growing up without a father. But either way, she'd chosen to side with him, though the old woman didn't hold it against her and asked the man to take her out to the woods and put her out of her misery, which he did. Without the old woman, the two could have had a good life together, but fate had other plans. The intruders came back, and this time they were armed and ready, with only one goal in mind: to kill them and use them for meat.